The notification came while I was at work, reviewing quarterly reports in my corner office. My phone buzzed with a text from my mother. Family dinner tonight. 7 p.m. Don't be late. We have something important to discuss. I should have known then that my life was about to implode. My name is David, and until 6 months ago, I thought I had everything figured out. At 32, I was engaged to Sarah, the woman I'd been with for 5 years. We'd met at a mutual friend's birthday party, and from the moment she laughed at my terrible joke about spreadsheets, I was hooked. Sarah was everything I'd ever wanted, smart, beautiful, with this incredible ability to light up any room she walked into. We'd planned our wedding for next spring, already put a deposit on the venue, a gorgeous vineyard upstate that she'd fallen in love with during a wine tasting weekend. My younger brother Jake had always been the family's golden child. 3 years younger than me, he could do no wrong in our parents' eyes. While I worked 2 jobs to put myself through college, Jake got a full ride from mom and dad. When I graduated with honors and landed my first accounting job, the family dinner celebration was canceled because Jake had a football game. When Jake dropped out of college after 2 years to find himself, our parents called him brave for following his dreams. When I bought my first house at 28, my mother's response was to ask if I could help Jake with his rent. But I'd made peace with it, or so I thought. Jake was Jake, charming, carefree, the kind of guy who could talk his way out of any situation and into anyone's good graces. He worked as a personal trainer now, bouncing between gyms, always with some new business idea that never quite materialized. Sarah used to joke that Jake was like a golden retriever, adorable but completely unreliable. She'd always been polite to him at family gatherings, but I knew she found his immaturity frustrating. That Tuesday evening, I arrived at my parents' house at exactly 7 p.m. The familiar smell of my mother's pot roast filled the air, but something felt off immediately. The dining room was too quiet. Sarah's car was in the driveway, which surprised me. She'd told me she had a work event tonight. Jake was already there, sitting in his usual spot, but he wouldn't meet my eyes. My parents sat at their end of the table, their faces a mixture of concern and something else I couldn't quite read. "Sit down, David," my father said, his voice unusually formal. I took my seat, looking around the table. "Where's Sarah? I saw her car outside." "She's in the bathroom," my mother said quickly. "She'll be out in a minute." The silence stretched on, heavy and suffocating. Jake kept fidgeting with his napkin, and my mother kept glancing at the hallway. Finally, I couldn't take it anymore. "What's going on? Why does this feel like an intervention?" That's when Sarah walked in. Her eyes were red and puffy, her usual confident posture replaced with something defensive, almost hostile. She sat down next to Jake, not in her usual spot next to me, and that's when I knew. I didn't know what exactly, but I knew my world was about to shatter. "David," Sarah started, her voice barely above a whisper. "There's something we need to tell you." The way she said "we" made my blood run cold. Not "I need to tell you something," but "we." I looked from her to Jake, who was now staring at his plate like it held the secrets of the universe. "Sarah's pregnant," my mother announced, as if ripping off a Band-Aid. 8 weeks along. For a moment, my brain simply refused to process this information. Pregnant? We'd been trying for over a year with no success. The fertility specialist had said everything looked fine, that we just needed to be patient. I actually felt a spark of joy for about 3 seconds before I noticed everyone's expressions. That's wonderful," I said slowly, confused by the somber atmosphere. "But why does everyone look like someone died?" Sarah couldn't look at me. Jake shifted in his seat, and then my father, in his matter-of-fact way, delivered the killing blow. "It's Jake's baby, son." The words hit me like a physical force. I actually laughed a short, sharp bark of disbelief. This had to be a joke. A sick, twisted joke that my family was playing on me for some incomprehensible reason. "What?" I managed to say. Sarah finally looked up, tears streaming down her face. "David, I'm so sorry. It just happened." "It just happened?" I repeated, my voice rising. "What just happened? You tripped and fell onto my brother?" "Don't be crude," my mother interjected. "This is difficult for everyone." I turned to stare at her, genuinely wondering if I was having some kind of breakdown. Difficult for everyone? My fiancée is pregnant with my brother's baby, and this is difficult for everyone? Jake finally spoke up, his voice defensive. "Look, Dave, we didn't mean for it to happen. It was just one night." "One night?" I stood up so fast my chair toppled backward. When was this one night?" Sarah winced. "Your birthday weekend. When you went to that conference in Boston." "My birthday weekend. 3 months ago. I'd been at a mandatory company conference, and Sarah had said she couldn't come because of a big project at work. Jake had supposedly been out of town too, visiting friends in Miami. The lies started unraveling in my mind, a tapestry of deception I'd been too trusting to see. "You said you were in Miami," I said to Jake, my voice deadly quiet. "Plans changed," he mumbled. "And you," I turned to Sarah, "you said you were working all weekend. You sent me pictures from your office." She looked away. "I went in on Saturday morning. After she'd slept with my brother. After she'd betrayed 5 years of trust. After she'd destroyed everything we'd built together." "How many times?" I asked. "David, that doesn't matter," my mother started. "How many times?" I roared, slamming my hand on the table hard enough to make the dishes jump. Sarah flinched. "Just that once at first. But then, a few more times. We tried to stop, but a few more times," I repeated, laughing bitterly. "So, not only did you sleep with my brother, you continued sleeping with him. While planning our wedding, while we were trying for a baby." The irony wasn't lost on me. All those fertility appointments, all those months of carefully tracked cycles and scheduled intimacy, and she'd gotten pregnant from sneaking around with Jake. "David, sit down," my father commanded. "We need to discuss this like adults." "Like adults?" I remained standing, my whole body shaking with rage. Where was the adult behavior when my brother was sleeping with my fiancée? Where was the adult behavior when they continued their affair for months? "It wasn't an affair," Jake protested. "We fell in love." Those 4 words transformed my rage into something cold and sharp. "You fell in love. While I was planning to spend my life with her, you fell in love. These things happen, sweetheart," my mother said, reaching for my hand. I jerked away from her. The heart wants what it wants. You can't control who you fall in love with. "Are you seriously defending this?" I asked, incredulous. "We're not defending anything," my father said. "We're trying to find a solution. Sarah and Jake made a mistake, but now there's a baby involved. We need to think about what's best for the child. The baby that should have been mine," I said, my voice cracking for the first time. Sarah started crying harder. "David, I loved you. I still love you. But with Jake, it's different. It's passionate. It's..." "Stop," I held up my hand. "Just stop. I don't want to hear about your passion with my brother." I looked around the table at these people I'd called family. My parents, who were apparently more concerned about keeping the peace than acknowledging the betrayal. My brother, who couldn't even look me in the eye. And Sarah, the woman I'd planned to grow old with, carrying my brother's child. "So what exactly is the plan here?" I asked. "What did you all discuss before bringing me into this little family meeting?" My mother cleared her throat. "Well, Sarah and Jake want to keep the baby, of course. And we thought, we hoped you could find it in your heart to forgive them. To be happy for them." "Happy for them," I repeated flatly. "You'll be an uncle," my mother said, as if this was some consolation prize. "And we can all move forward as a family. Jake and Sarah are planning to move in together. And..." "Into my house?" I interrupted, another piece clicking into place. "The house that Sarah and I bought together?" Sarah had the decency to look ashamed. "We'll buy out your half. Jake's been approved for a loan." Jake, who could barely hold down a job for more than 6 months, had been approved for a loan. I wondered how much of my parents' money was behind that approval. "This is insane," I said, running my hands through my hair. "This is actually insane. You all sat here, planned out your little happy ending, and expected me to what? Smile and congratulate you? Be the best man at your wedding?" "There's no need for dramatics," my father said sternly. "What's done is done. The question is whether you're going to be part of this family going forward or not." The ultimatum hung in the air. Choose forgiveness. Choose to accept this betrayal with grace, or lose my family. But looking at them all, I realized I'd already lost them. Maybe I'd never really had them at all. "I need to leave," I said, heading for the door. "David, please," Sarah called after me. "Can we talk? Just the 2 of us?" I turned back to look at her. This woman I'd loved so completely. "We have nothing to talk about. You made your choice. You all did." "Don't be stubborn," my mother said. "Family forgives. That's what we do." "No," I said firmly. "That's what you do. You forgive Jake everything. His failures, his screw-ups, and now, apparently, his betrayal of his own brother. But I'm done. I'm done being the understanding one, the responsible one, the one who has to swallow his feelings for the sake of family harmony." I drove home in a haze, muscle memory navigating the familiar streets while my mind reeled. 5 years. 5 years of memories now tainted beyond recognition. Every time Sarah had smiled at Jake during family dinners, had there been something more? Every time she'd laughed at his stupid jokes, was she falling for him? When she'd encouraged me to help him with his rent, was she already sleeping with him? My phone exploded with messages before I even reached my apartment. My mother, begging me to come back and talk things through. My father, telling me I was being childish. Jake, saying we needed to talk brother to brother. I turned my phone off and threw it onto the passenger seat. The apartment felt different when I walked in. This was supposed to be our temporary place, just until the wedding. We'd been planning to keep the house and rent this out. Now every corner held a ghost of a future that would never exist. The wedding magazines on the coffee table, the save the dates we'd addressed last month but hadn't sent yet. The engagement photo on the mantle, both of us smiling like idiots who had no idea what was coming. I poured myself a scotch, the good stuff I'd been saving for my bachelor party, and sat in the dark, trying to process what had just happened. The betrayal was obvious, but the family meeting aspect made it so much worse. They'd all known. They'd all discussed it, planned how to break it to me, decided on their approach. How long had they known? Days? Weeks? My phone, even turned off, seemed to mock me from across the room. I knew I'd have to face it eventually. I powered it on to find 37 missed calls and countless texts. I scrolled through them, each one making me angrier. Mom. David. Please don't do anything rash. Think about the baby. Dad. Son, man up and face this properly. Running away solves nothing. Jake. Bro, I know you're hurt, but we need to talk. It's not what you think. Not what I think? What else could it possibly be? Then there were the texts from Sarah. I almost deleted them unread, but morbid curiosity won. David, I'm so sorry. I never meant for this to happen. Please let me explain. It's not as simple as it seems. I do love you. I just love him more. We can figure this out. We can still be friends. The baby doesn't change how I felt about you. Please don't hate me. Friends. She wanted to be friends. After 5 years together, after planning our entire future, after getting pregnant with my brother's child while we were actively trying to conceive, she wanted to be friends. I threw my phone against the wall, taking savage satisfaction in the crack of the screen. The next morning came too soon. I'd barely slept, alternating between rage and a crushing sadness that felt like drowning. I called in sick to work the first sick day I'd taken in 3 years. My boss, Richard, sounded concerned. Everything all right, David? This isn't like you. Family emergency, I managed. It wasn't exactly a lie. I spent the morning in a productive fury. First, I called a locksmith and had the locks changed on my apartment. Sarah had a key, and the last thing I needed was her showing up for a heart-to-heart. Then I called my lawyer, my friend who was a lawyer, and asked about my options regarding the house. It's complicated, Marcus said after I explained the situation. Both your names are on the deed. She can't force you to sell, but neither can you force her. If Jake wants to buy out your half, that might be the cleanest solution. I don't want him in my house, I said flatly. I understand, but David, think practically. Do you really want to keep living in a house you bought with her? Every room will remind you. You're right, I cut him off. He was right, but it still felt like another loss. Part 5. By noon, the family bombardment had intensified. My mother showed up at my apartment, knocking insistently. David, I know you're in there. Your car's in the parking lot. I didn't answer. David, this is ridiculous. You're acting like a child. Open the door so we can talk about this properly. Still, I remained silent. Your brother is devastated, she continued through the door. He never meant to hurt you. Neither of them did. Sometimes these things just happen, and we have to accept them with grace. Grace. There was that word again. The same grace I'd been expected to show when Jake crashed my car in high school and my parents made me pay for the repairs because I should have known better than to lend it to him. The same grace I'd shown when he'd borrowed $5,000 for a business opportunity that turned out to be a pyramid scheme. Money I never saw again. I'm not going away, my mother announced. I'll wait here all day if I have to. But she did go away, after about an hour of intermittent knocking and guilt-tripping. I watched from my window as she finally walked back to her car, cell phone pressed to her ear, no doubt reporting her failure to my father. That afternoon, I forced myself to face the practical matters. I called the wedding venue to cancel our reservation. The woman on the phone was sympathetic when I explained there would be no wedding. I'm so sorry to hear that, Mr. Chen. Unfortunately, as per your contract, the deposit is non-refundable with less than 6 months' notice. $3,000 gone. I added it to the mental tally of what this betrayal had cost me. Next, I called the wedding photographer, the caterer, the florist. Some deposits I got back, others I didn't. Each call felt like another nail in the coffin of my former life. The florist, an elderly woman named Rose who'd been so excited about our vintage garden theme, actually cried when I told her the wedding was off. Oh, honey, I'm so sorry. You two seemed so perfect together. Yeah, well, apparently she's more perfect with my brother, I said before I could stop myself. There was a long pause. Oh my, well, I'm going to refund your entire deposit, dear. Nobody should have to pay for flowers for a wedding that's not happening because of something like that. It was the first kindness I'd experienced since this nightmare began, and I had to hang up quickly before I broke down completely. That evening, Jake showed up. I saw him coming from my window and didn't answer the door. But unlike our mother, he had a key to the building from when he'd crashed at my place for 2 months last year. I heard him in the hallway, approaching my door. Dave, open up. I know you're in there, and we need to talk. I said nothing. Come on, man. You're my brother. We've been through everything together. Go away, Jake. Finally, he speaks. Look, I get that you're angry. I yanked the door open. Angry? You think I'm angry? I'm so far beyond angry I don't even have a word for it. Jake stood there in his gym clothes, looking like he'd come straight from work. He had the audacity to look hurt by my words. I didn't plan this, Dave. Neither of us did. It just happened. Stop saying that, I snapped. Nothing just happens. You made choices. Multiple choices, over and over again. You chose to sleep with my fiancée. You chose to continue sleeping with her. You chose to get her pregnant. We used protection, he said defensively, as if that somehow made it better. The pregnancy was an accident. Oh, well then, that changes everything, I said sarcastically. You only intentionally slept with her. The baby was just a bonus betrayal. Jake pushed past me into the apartment, uninvited. We need to talk about this like brothers. Brothers? I laughed bitterly. Brothers don't do what you did. I know you hate me right now. Hate doesn't even begin to cover it. Jake sat down on my couch, making himself comfortable like he always did, assuming his presence would be welcomed eventually. Look, I'll be honest with you. Sarah and I, we tried to fight it. After that first night, we both felt terrible. She cried for hours, said she'd ruined everything. I told her we should forget it ever happened. But you didn't, I said flatly. We tried. But then I'd see her at family dinners, or she'd text me about your birthday gift ideas. And there was just this connection, this electricity between us that we couldn't ignore. So instead of, staying away from each other, you decided to have an affair. It wasn't supposed to be an affair. The second time was supposed to be closure. To get it out of our systems. And the third time? The fourth? How many times did you need closure, Jake? He had the grace to look ashamed. I know how it sounds. But Dave, I love her. Really love her. Not just the excitement or the forbidden aspect of it. I want to raise this baby with her. I want to marry her. The engagement ring I bought her is still in the house, I said coldly. Maybe you can use that. Save yourself some money. That's not Dave, please. You're my brother, my only brother. I can't lose you over this. You already did, I said simply. The moment you decided to sleep with Sarah, you lost me. So that's it? 29 years of being brothers? And you're just done? Yes, I said without hesitation. I'm done. Get out of my apartment. Mom and Dad think you'll come around. They said you just need time to process. Mom and Dad have always thought I'd come around. Every time you screwed up, every time you needed money, every time you dropped out of something or failed at something, they assumed good old reliable David would come around and fix it. Well, not this time. Jake stood up, frustration evident on his face. You always do this. You always act like you're so much better than me. So superior. Maybe that's why Sarah. Finish that sentence, I warned, my voice dangerous. Go ahead. Tell me how this is my fault. He seemed to realize he'd gone too far. That's not what I meant. Get out. Dave. Get out. After he left, I called a real estate agent. If Jake wanted the house, he could have it, but I was going to make sure I got every penny I was owed. Then I started looking at apartments in other cities. Seattle had always appealed to me. Or maybe Austin. Somewhere far from here, far from them. My phone rang a number I didn't recognize. Against my better judgment, I answered. Is this David Chen? A woman's voice asked. Yes. My name is Patricia Coleman. I'm Sarah's mother. I almost hung up, but something made me stay on the line. I just heard what happened, she continued, her voice thick with emotion. I'm calling to tell you how sorry I am. How absolutely disgusted I am with my daughter's behavior. This was unexpected. Mrs. Coleman. Patricia, please. David, you've been nothing but wonderful to Sarah for 5 years. You've been the son-in-law I dreamed of having. And for her to do this, with your own brother. I didn't raise her to be this kind of person. I appreciate you saying that, I managed, throat tight. I told her she's lost her mind, Patricia continued. Throwing away a good man, a stable relationship. For what? For someone who can't even hold down a job? I don't understand it. Patricia's call had been an unexpected comfort, but it also drove home how definitive this all was. Even Sarah's own mother thought she'd made a terrible mistake. There was no going back from this, no reconciliation possible. The relationship was dead, and now I had to figure out how to bury it and move on. Over the next week, I threw myself into the logistics of separation. The real estate agent, a sharp woman named Jennifer, assured me she could get top dollar for my half of the house. The market's hot right now, she said, touring the property while Sarah was at work. And you've maintained this place beautifully. I'm assuming you want a quick sale? The quicker the better, I confirmed. And the other party is cooperative? She's eager to buy me out. Her new boyfriend wants to move in. The words tasted bitter. Jennifer raised an eyebrow but remained professional. I see. Well, that actually works in your favor. Eager buyers tend to pay asking price. While Jennifer handled the house, I met with Marcus again to go over the legal implications. Sarah and I weren't married, which actually made things simpler. No divorce proceedings, no alimony, just the matter of shared assets, the house, and a joint savings account we'd opened for the wedding. I've drafted a separation agreement, Marcus said, sliding papers across his desk. It outlines the division of assets, the buyout terms for the house, and includes a clause that both parties agree to no further contact unless absolutely necessary for legal matters. Can we add something about family events? I asked. I don't want them showing up at family gatherings expecting me to play nice. Marcus nodded, making notes. We can request that they inform you of their attendance at family events in advance, giving you the option to decline attendance without harassment. Perfect. But the family wasn't making anything easy. My phone was a constant barrage of messages, calls, and voicemails. My father left particularly harsh ones, accusing me of being petty and vindictive. My mother's were more emotional, crying about how I was tearing the family apart, as if I was the one who'd blown everything up. The worst part was work. Somehow when I suspected my mother's book club gossip network word had gotten around the office. I caught whispers in the break room, sympathetic looks from coworkers, awkward silences when I entered rooms. My boss, Richard, called me into his office on a Thursday afternoon. David, I heard about your situation, he said carefully. I want you to know that if you need some time off, we can arrange that. I'm fine, I lied. Are you? Because your work, while still acceptable, isn't up to your usual standards. You've been distracted, withdrawn. That's understandable given the circumstances. But, you heard what happened, I interrupted. Richard nodded uncomfortably. Your mother called HR looking for you when you weren't answering your phone. She may have overshared with Rebecca. Rebecca, our head of HR, who was also the office's biggest gossip. Fantastic. I'm handling it, I said firmly. My personal life won't affect my work going forward. I'm not worried about your work, David. I'm worried about you. You're one of my best analysts. More than that, you're a good man who's been dealt a terrible hand. If you need to take some time, use your vacation days, get your head straight. Actually, I said, making a sudden decision, I'm putting in my notice. Richard's eyebrows shot up. David, don't make any rash decisions. It's not rash. I've been thinking about it all week. I need a fresh start, away from here. Away from all of this. I'll give you the standard 2 weeks. Help train my replacement. Finish all my current projects. Where will you go? I have some leads in Seattle, I said, though I'd only just started looking. Some firms there have been headhunting me for a while. Richard leaned back in his chair, studying me. I hate to lose you, but I understand. I'll write you a glowing recommendation. Hell, I'll call some contacts in Seattle myself. The 2 weeks that followed were surreal. I worked on autopilot, training my replacement, a eager young woman named Jessica who'd just gotten her CPA. She was competent and enthusiastic, reminding me of myself 8 years ago when I'd started at the firm. I wondered if she'd still have that enthusiasm after her first major betrayal. At home, I packed methodically. 5 years of shared life had to be sorted into mine, hers, and ours. The ours pile was depressingly large furniture we'd bought together, gifts we'd given each other, photos from trips and celebrations. I left it all. Let her deal with the memories. Sarah tried to contact me repeatedly. She showed up at my apartment 3 times, but I never answered. She left notes under my door, long, rambling letters about how sorry she was, how she never meant for this to happen, how she hoped we could still be friends someday. I threw them away unread after the first one, which contained the particularly tone-deaf line, "I hope you can be happy for us eventually." The family pressure intensified as my moving date approached. My mother enlisted relatives I hadn't spoken to in years to call and convince me to stay. My Aunt Linda, who lived in Florida and whom I saw maybe once every 5 years, called to tell me that family is family and I needed to be the bigger person. "Linda, with all due respect, you don't know the whole story," I said tiredly. "I know enough. Your mother told me everything. So your brother fell in love with your girlfriend. These things happen. You can't let it destroy the family." "I'm not destroying anything. I'm removing myself from a toxic situation." "Toxic? Your family loves you. My family expects me to smile and play uncle to my ex-fiancé and brother's baby. The baby that should have been mine. Would you be able to do that?" There was a pause. "Well, I mean, family requires sacrifice sometimes." I hung up on her. The worst confrontation came the night before the movers were scheduled to arrive. I'd found an apartment in Seattle, sight unseen, based on video tours and reviews. It was smaller than what I had now, but it was mine alone. No memories, no ghosts. I was doing a final check of my packing when I heard a key in the lock. I'd changed the locks, so whoever it was couldn't get in, but the scratching continued, then pounding. "David, open this door right now." My father. Of course he'd show up for one last attempt at browbeating me into submission. "Go away, Dad. I'm your father. You will open this door and talk to me." I opened it, but left the chain on. "What do you want?" "Take the chain off. Number, say what you came to say and leave." His face was red with anger. "You're being a coward, running away instead of facing this like a man." "Facing what, exactly?" "The fact that my brother impregnated my fiancé? I've faced that. The fact that my family expects me to forgive and forget? I've faced that too. What else is there? Your responsibilities. You're the older brother. You're supposed to set an example." "I am setting an example," I said coldly. "I'm showing that actions have consequences, that you can't betray someone and expect them to stick around." Jake is devastated. He cries himself to sleep, knowing his brother hates him. "Good." My father's face darkened further. "How can you be so cruel? How can you be so blind?" I countered. "Your precious Jake betrayed me in the worst possible way, and you're worried about his feelings? He's my son. So am I shouted, finally losing my composure. "I'm your son too, but you've never, not once in my entire life, taken my side over his. Every mistake he's made, every failure, every screw-up, you've expected me to understand, to forgive, to help fix. Well, I'm done being the family janitor, cleaning up Jake's messes." My father stood there, momentarily stunned by my outburst. In 32 years, I'd never raised my voice to him like that. I'd always been the dutiful son, the one who kept his feelings in check, who prioritized family harmony over personal grievances. "You're really going to throw away your entire family over this?" he asked, his voice quieter now but no less harsh. "I'm not throwing anyone away. I'm choosing to protect myself from people who've shown me, repeatedly, that my feelings don't matter, that my pain is less important than maintaining the status quo." "That's not true, isn't it? When Jake crashed my car in high school, who paid for the repairs? When he needed money for his failed businesses, who was expected to help? When he dropped out of college, who had to tutor him for his GED? And now, when he's stolen my fiancée and impregnated her, who's expected to forgive and forget?" "You've always been stronger than Jake," my father said, as if that explained everything. "More capable. We knew you could handle things." "That's not a compliment, Dad. That's an excuse. You've used my strength as a reason to never protect me, never defend me, never choose me. We love you both equally." "No," I interrupted. "You don't. You love Jake. You enable Jake. You make excuses for Jake. And you expect me to facilitate that by being the eternal understanding brother. Well, I'm done. If you leave, don't expect to come crawling back when you realize you've made a mistake." "Is that a threat?" "It's a promise. You walk away from this family, you're out. No holidays, no birthdays, nothing. You'll be dead to us." The words should have hurt, but instead, they freed me. "Then I guess this is goodbye." I closed the door on his shocked face and turned the deadbolt. The movers came early the next morning. I'd hired a company that specialized in long-distance moves, and they were efficiently packing my life into a truck within hours. I stood in the empty apartment, remembering the day Sarah and I had moved in, full of plans and dreams. It seemed like a lifetime ago. As I was doing a final walkthrough, my phone buzzed. A text from an unknown number. I almost ignored it, but curiosity won. "This is Jake. Dad told me what happened last night. I'm sorry it's come to this. I want you to know that despite everything, I love you. You're my brother. That will never change. I hope someday you can forgive me. Take care of yourself in Seattle." How did he know about Seattle? Of course, Mom probably had stalked my social media or called my office. There were no secrets in this family, except apparently the ones that mattered. I deleted the message without responding. The drive to Seattle took 2 days. I could have flown and had my car shipped, but I needed the time on the road to clear my head. 14 hours of highway stretched ahead of me, and I welcomed the solitude. I turned my phone off completely, tossing it in the glove compartment. For the first time in weeks, I felt like I could breathe. I stopped for the night in a small town in Oregon, checking into a roadside motel that had seen better days. The anonymity was perfect. Nobody here knew my story, my family, my drama. I was just another traveler passing through. That night, I sat on the lumpy motel bed and finally allowed myself to grieve. Not just for Sarah, but for the future I'd planned, the family I'd lost, the brother I'd thought I had. The tears came hard and fast, years of suppressed frustration and hurt pouring out in the darkness of that unfamiliar room. When I woke the next morning, my eyes were swollen and my throat was raw, but I felt lighter somehow, like I'd purged something toxic from my system. Seattle welcomed me with its characteristic drizzle. The apartment I'd rented sight unseen turned out to be perfect, a studio in Capitol Hill with exposed brick walls and large windows overlooking the city. It was smaller than what I'd had before, but it was mine. No memories lurked in these corners. No ghosts of a life that might have been. I'd given myself a week before starting my new job. Richard's connections had paid off, and I'd landed a senior analyst position at a firm downtown. The pay was actually better than what I'd been making, and the cost of living wasn't much higher than back home. Back there. It wasn't home anymore. On my third day in Seattle, I finally turned my phone back on. 143 missed calls, 209 text messages, 57 voicemails. I deleted them all without reading or listening to a single one. Then I called my phone company and changed my number. The fresh start felt surreal. I set up my apartment methodically. New furniture from IKEA, new dishes, new everything. Nothing that would remind me of before. I even bought different brands of the everyday items Sarah and I had shared preferences on. Different coffee, different detergent, different toothpaste. It was petty, maybe, but necessary. My first day at the new job was a revelation. Nobody knew my story. I was just David, the new senior analyst with great references. My colleagues were friendly but professional, inviting me to lunch without prying into my personal life. When someone asked if I'd moved here alone, I simply said yes and changed the subject. 2 weeks into my new life, I got an email at my work address. My mother had apparently done her research. David, we know you're in Seattle. Your father didn't mean what he said about you being dead to us. Please come home. Jake and Sarah have moved into the house, and she's starting to show. We want you to be part of your nephew or niece's life. Family is forever. Please don't do this. Love, Mom. I blocked her email address. A month passed. Then 2. I established routines, morning runs along the waterfront, coffee at the same local shop, weekly drinks with colleagues who were slowly becoming friends. None of them knew about my past, and I intended to keep it that way. Then, on a random Thursday, my personal email received a message from Marcus, my lawyer friend back home. David, I thought you should know Sarah has been trying to contest the separation agreement. She wants to claim emotional damages, saying you abandoned her during her pregnancy. It won't go anywhere legally, but it's getting messy. Also, your brother has been calling my office repeatedly. I haven't returned his calls, but he seems desperate to reach you. Just wanted to keep you informed. I replied with a simple thanks and instructions to handle whatever was needed without my involvement. 3 months into my Seattle life, I was actually starting to feel normal again. The sharp pain had dulled to a manageable ache. I could go entire days without thinking about them. I'd even gone on a few dates, nothing serious, but proof that I could move forward. That's when the social media campaign started. I'd deactivated most of my accounts when I left, but I'd kept LinkedIn for professional reasons. Suddenly, I was getting messages from extended family, family friends, even Sarah's friends, all with variations of the same theme. Forgive and come home. Someone, probably my mother, had mobilized an army of flying monkeys. The messages ranged from guilt-tripping to outright hostile. Your mother cries every day. Your brother's child deserves an uncle. You're being selfish and immature. Real men don't run from their problems. Sarah made a mistake, but she loved you. I shut down my LinkedIn, creating a new one with enhanced privacy settings. But they didn't stop there. Someone I suspected Jake hired a private investigator to find my exact address. I knew this because one evening, 6 months after I'd left, I found an envelope slipped under my apartment door. Inside was a single photo, an ultrasound image. On the back, in Sarah's handwriting, your nephew, James David. He has Jake's eyes and your stubborn chin somehow. We named him after you, hoping you'll come back to us. They'd named the baby after me. The audacity of it took my breath away. The child that should have been mine, the product of the ultimate betrayal, carrying my name like some twisted olive branch. I burned the photo in my sink, watching their attempt at manipulation turn to ash. The next day, I called a lawyer in Seattle and filed for a restraining order against my entire family, including Sarah. The harassment, the private investigator, the continued attempts at contact despite my clear wishes, it was enough to grant me a temporary order, with a hearing scheduled for a permanent one. Being served with restraining orders must have finally gotten the message across. The attempts at contact stopped abruptly. No more emails, no more messages through third parties, no more envelopes under my door. I thought that would be the end of it. I was wrong. 8 months after I'd left, I got a call from Patricia, Sarah's mother. She'd somehow gotten my new number, probably from my former employer, claiming a family emergency. David, I'm sorry to bother you, she said quickly, probably expecting me to hang up. But I thought you should know. Sarah and Jake's relationship is falling apart. She caught him cheating with one of his gym clients. She's devastated, says she threw away everything for nothing. Why are you telling me this? I asked, genuinely puzzled. Because she wants to reach out to you. She thinks maybe you two could reconcile. That you could forgive her now that she understands what betrayal feels like. I actually laughed. She thinks I've been waiting around for her, that I'd take her back now, after she's had my brother's baby. I told her she was delusional, Patricia said firmly. But she won't listen. She's convinced you still love her, that you left Seattle as some kind of test. David, I'm calling to warn you. She's planning to fly to Seattle. She seems to think if she can just see you, explain everything, you'll take her back. I have a restraining order against her, I said flatly. If she comes within 500 feet of me, she'll be arrested. She doesn't know about that. Your family hasn't told her. Then you should tell her. Patricia, I appreciate the warning, but I need you to understand something. There is no scenario, none whatsoever, where I take Sarah back. She made her choice. The fact that it turned out poorly doesn't erase what she did. I understand. I just wanted to warn you. And David? For what it's worth, you deserve better. You always did. I thanked her and hung up, immediately calling my lawyer to alert them about the potential violation of the restraining order. Sarah never showed up in Seattle. I heard later, through the legal channels, that she'd been informed of the restraining order and threatened with arrest if she violated it. She'd also been informed that any attempt to contact me through third parties would be considered harassment. A year passed. I was promoted at my new job. I started dating someone seriously, Amy, a software developer with no tolerance for drama and a laugh that made me forget, sometimes, that I'd ever been hurt. I told her about my past eventually, and her response was perfect. They sound awful. Thank God you got away. 18 months after I'd left, I got one final legal communication. Jake and Sarah were getting divorced. She wanted the house. He wanted custody of James. It was, apparently, getting ugly. My lawyer informed me that I might be called as a witness if it went to court, given the circumstances of their relationship's beginning. I refused. I had no obligation to help either of them, and frankly, I didn't care what happened. They'd made their bed, literally and figuratively. They could lie in it. 2 years after the night my world imploded, I married Amy in a small ceremony on a Seattle beach. 20 guests, no family except her parents and sister. It was perfect. Simple, honest, without the weight of expectation or the shadow of betrayal. Richard flew out from my old city to be my best man. During his speech, he said something that stuck with me. David rebuilt his life from scorched earth. He didn't just survive betrayal, he transcended it. He chose himself, and in doing so, found something better than what he lost. He was right. I had found something better, not just in Amy, but in myself. The David who'd sat at that dinner table, being told to accept betrayal with grace, would never have believed he could be this happy. That David thought he needed his family, needed their approval, needed to be the responsible one who held everything together. This David knew better. Family isn't just blood. It's the people who choose you, who respect you, who wouldn't dream of asking you to swallow your pain for their comfort. It's the colleagues who became friends, the woman who became my wife, the life I built on my own terms. Sometimes, late at night, I wonder about them. Did Jake and Sarah stay together? Did my parents ever realize what they'd lost? Does James, my nephew who carries my name, know I exist? But these are fleeting thoughts, like wondering about characters in a movie you saw years ago. They're not my family anymore. They're just people I used to know, in a life I used to live, in a place I used to call home. My home is here now, 3,000 miles from that dining room table where they tried to serve me betrayal disguised as family loyalty. Here, where I chose myself. Here, where I finally learned that sometimes the best response to family is forever is simple. Number, it's not.